Okay. Let's try this again.
Welcome to Forking Off, the podcast by former feds who got the fork out. I'm Jill Fields.
And I'm Philip Fields.
Now, before we get started, make sure to hit the follow button.
You can find all our content and show notes on our website, forkingoff.com.
And if you enjoy what we do and want to help, consider supporting us on Ko-fi. Hi, we have got a great episode today, and I'm really excited about our guest. Philip and we've talked about having someone from one of the support organizations come and be our guest, and we were fortunate enough to get Stacey Young from Justice Connection to join us today. Stacey created Justice Connection knowing that Justice Department employees would need a support network during the second Trump administration.
Yeah, and we first learned about Justice Connection back in January of 2025, initially through the media coverage, and then we started watching where they were going as the year went on and as everything devolved. And then throughout the summer of 2025, they were getting even more involved with representing people coming from the Justice Department with all sorts of issues, and they were doing really important work.
And in October of 2025, when all of us were finally off of payroll after deferred resignation, they submitted an open letter to the public that was signed by over 295 Justice Department alumni that showed that we were united in wanting the Justice Department to stay apolitical and to focus on the important issues and to focus on the law.
And once everybody came off of the deferred resignation, they started offering other opportunities to give back. They offered media training to people who didn't have it and were providing opportunities to get involved with advocacy work on behalf of current and former DOJ employees.
We noticed, as Stacey will mention, that there weren't a lot of FBI employees speaking up. FBI has some really weird, very stringent rules, and it's almost a fear-based system. Don't ever say anything. Don't ever speak up. And so Justice Connection in June of this year launched the FBI Support Network. There's actually an FBI advisory committee. I happen to be on that. And we're making strides with getting the word out about all of the available support out there. And we've even set up to have special trainings within of how to support current and former FBI employees.
Yeah, and Justice Connection provides all sorts of support. They provide legal support for people who have either been retaliated against or maybe whistleblowers. They provide mental health support to people who are struggling during this time. And they provide employment assistance to people who have left and are looking for their next role. Most importantly, the advocacy that they do is meant to provide courage to those who are still in the Justice Department, to those who are still at the FBI, and to remind them to do the right thing for the right reason in the right way, as we used to say. And that's been very important because when those close to us are targeted, it shows them that we're here for them.
And employees are still being targeted. Recently, someone who is very close to us was targeted for their relationship to us and for talking about that relationship.
Yeah, so the work that Justice Connection does is going to continue being important for the foreseeable future. Let's just get into it and hear it from Stacey herself.
So today's guest is Executive Director and Founder of Justice Connection, Stacey Young. Hi, Stacey. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited. So why don't we go ahead and get started with your bluff, your bottom line up front.
So I was a DOJ lawyer for more than 18 years. I resigned shortly after the administration to found an organization that supports the DOJ employees who have been under attack by this administration. And unfortunately, the situation has not gotten better, and we are not going away until the need no longer exists.
Unfortunately, it seems like that need is going to stay for a while.
It sure does.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up working at the DOJ and what you did at the DOJ?
Yep. So I was a small baby, about 5 pounds, 10 ounces, I think. Born in the hospital in Buffalo, New York. Should I go slower?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So as I said, I was at DOJ for quite a while. And after the election, I realized that federal employees were going to be under assault by this administration. And it didn't take me for much to realize that because they said it out loud. And I thought that DOJ employees would be under particular attack because they had a very specific vulnerability, which is that only DOJ investigated and prosecuted this president, and he made his retributive intentions very clear. So I thought there needs to be an organization on the outside to support them if they're going to be able to stay at their jobs and continue upholding the rule of law. And I looked around, tried to find such an organization or people willing to do it, and I just couldn't. And I ran an organization inside DOJ that supported DOJ employees. And I thought, well, I know the department pretty well through my work with that organization. Maybe I could do it myself. And I thought that that organization was going to be under attack as well. And I thought that leaving the department for that reason too would be helpful to the members we had in the organization. So that's what I did. I set out to figure out how to run an organization on the outside, something I had never done and knew nothing about. And, took a lot of work, but it worked. There's a whole lot of luck involved, but a year and a half later, we're still going.
Yes, that's amazing. Yeah. So, Stacey, inside the DOJ, you're in the Civil Rights Division, right?
I was in the Civil Division for 13 years and then the Civil Rights Division for 5. So I worked in both.
So, from the outside looking in, is the Civil Rights Division even doing anything?
They're doing a lot of bad work. They're doing a lot of work that targets vulnerable communities, the same communities they used to work to protect through the laws passed to support them, to protect their rights. There is some good work continuing inside the Civil Rights Department. I don't want to be too bleak about it, but the truth is there are still excellent, brilliant lawyers who have been there for a long time, who haven't left, who are still able to do some of the work they were doing previously. So, when people say the Civil Rights Division is completely destroyed, there's nothing left, that's not true. There is some good work still being done, but the priorities of the current administration and specifically of the current head of the Civil Rights Division are completely antithetical to the principles and the values embedded in the laws that division is supposed to enforce, was created to enforce.
Yeah. We've seen that at the FBI too. There are still good people there trying to do good work, but it gets overshadowed by the politicization and all of the other sensational or sensationalized work that is happening.
Yeah. And we try to remind the public of that. Like for every, seashell prosecution or sandwich throwing prosecution or, vacatement of seditious conspiracy convictions of Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, there are thousands of righteous prosecutions and other cases and other types of work, investigations, analysis. So much good work is continuing within the department, and it's being done by career employees who are doing that work under unthinkably difficult conditions. So as long as they stay, we on the outside really have, I think, a duty to try to support them.
Absolutely agree. All right. So, Stacey, tell us a little bit more about Justice Connection and the work that you've been doing this year or year and a half now.
Yeah. So, the way I envisioned the organization to be a direct support group, I wrote an op-ed in the New York Times before I left, calling on Americans to support civil servants in the federal government. And I provided a number of examples, like, provide them with legal support if you're a lawyer, provide them with mental health support if you're a mental health professional, bring over meals, like give them, call them, help them find jobs. And that was kind of a call to action. And launching the organization was kind of an answer to that call. So that is what we are. We're a direct support organization. We created networks to support employees. We've created a legal support network and recruited more than 250 DOJ alumni lawyers to provide pro bono legal representation to DOJ employees when they need it, like when they're fired or demoted or need ethics advice, or are under investigation. Otherwise, it would be very hard for them to find lawyers and afford them. And this is making them, this is providing them with the representation that they need and deserve. And it also provides a sense when they're at the department that if something goes haywire, I'll be protected. And it gives them another reason to stay if they can. We also provide mental health support through our mental health support network, where we recruited more than 100 mental health clinicians who are seeing people who need counseling, who are feeling the trauma that Russell Vogt and others promised to put them in. We have an employment support network where we do a lot of things to help DOJ employees find jobs when they're pushed out or feel like they may be pushed out soon. We set them up with informational interviews with alumni. We have lists of jobs that employers send to us when they want to specifically hire DOJ employees. We have a media training system where if people leave the department and want to start speaking out, we train them in how to do that, because DOJ employees are told, don't ever talk to the media. So we give them training. We help connect them to reporters. We help place their op-eds. And that's some of the direct support we do. But the organization has gone much further than I really imagined it would. We run a tracker that tracks all of the damage to the Justice Department, and that is an incredibly helpful resource to reporters and Congress. We maintain that all the time. We're getting ready to launch other data projects that is going to help convey information about what's happening at the department that we believe reporters and Congress and the public need to know. And we speak out ourselves. I mean, we've been now featured in over 350 national news stories, which is kind of insane. I mean, we've really become the voice of the career workforce. And more than that, we connect DOJ alumni to reporters. So we get contacted by reporters every single day, and they're looking for somebody with expertise in antitrust or, counterintelligence. And, none of us on staff have that expertise. We all did kind of our narrow things at DOJ, but now we have an alumni network with thousands of members. And we know what they did. We know what they know. So we are able to amplify the expertise and institutional knowledge from tons of people who know more than anyone else in their fields. So that's been huge for us. We put out videos. I go on podcasts like this one and try to send the message about what's happening to the department's workforce and what that means for all Americans, how it makes us all less safe, how it harms our economy, how it jeopardizes our fundamental freedoms. So, this is some of the stuff we do. And we also do advocacy campaigns. We had a huge advocacy campaign to try to defeat the Todd Blanche nomination. It was a months-long effort, and we did a huge amount. We had sign-on letters from thousands of DOJ alumni. We testified in Congress. We had a campaign around Emil Bovey when he was up to be a federal judge. I'm missing a lot of stuff we do, but we are constantly, we have our hands in a whole lot, again, to try to represent the voices and the interests of the career workforce, which I think would otherwise not be as big a part of the story as it is. Sorry, that was a very long answer.
No, but that's great. It really explains everything. We've seen what Justice Connection has been doing because as former DOJ employees, we immediately connected to Justice Connection. And we've seen it, and whenever anyone leaves, whenever anyone has trouble, we've said, hey, reach out to Justice Connection. They have a network that you can work with. So it's great to hear from you what's happening and what's going on. I'm very excited that you started the FBI support network within that, because FBI,
you guys are weirdos.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say we were special.
That's just the agents.
Yeah, that's just the agents. But no, there are so many random restrictions that last forever.
Yeah.
That it's such an intricate thing. And I can remember people asking me, oh, why aren't more FBI people speaking up or saying something? And I was like, do you know how much it took for Philip and I to say something? I was like, it was to the point, it was because of, it was so bad. We had to say something.
Yeah.
But there still was oh my gosh, we are going to get in trouble because we just said something. It's a different world.
Can I add my favorite thing that Justice Connection has done?
Yeah.
So in 2022, after Russia invaded Ukraine, some activists went down the street to the Russian embassy in DC and started shining spotlights on the side of the building, and it was very annoying to them. And not too long ago, I think somebody from Justice Connection hung out outside of DOJ Main, where the big posters hang, and did something similar. Is that right?
We did, in fact. So we borrowed some equipment and we projected a giant image on DOJ's main building where two banners of President Trump's face hang. And we projected a quote from John Adams, which is "Government of laws, not of man." And we did that right after the announcement of the slush fund and the IRS deal. And we wanted to send a clear message that this is not how a country that is founded on the rule of law works. And we thought that that was a powerful way to convey that. And it really got around. And I heard from tons of people inside and outside the department that they were really moved by it, and seeing that kind of visual depiction of the contrast, the words of how things should work against a banner of the president on what's supposed to be an independent institution was really powerful.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think for me, it was really moving to see. And it's one of those things where it feels like a small thing, but it's those small things that I feel like are going to have the biggest difference in these types of moments, right? We can hope that the courts keep them in check. We can hope that Congress comes around. But the biggest successes that we've seen in stopping some of these really egregious actions have come through the court of public opinion. And I think that that's a great way to motivate people. So, yeah. Bravo.
We're about to do something else involving, visuals soon. So I want to just, if I can, go back and first correct the record. When I called you guys in the FBI weirdos, I want to make it clear that was a joke. And I think you guys are like the most like admirable badasses out there. And like, I never joined the FBI because I am not a badass. Like, you guys are amazing. But the problem we identified was that after a couple months, word about us really got around to DOJ's workforce. And it got to the point where when somebody would be fired, we would hear about it right away. They would come to us for legal support or other kinds of support, like well before the news was in the papers. So we started being viewed as really a lifeline for DOJ employees. But we noticed that FBI employees were not coming to us. And for anyone who's not, isn't familiar with the institution, the FBI is actually in DOJ. It's kind of weird because like it views itself as somewhat independent from DOJ. Whether it should be in DOJ is another question, but it is in DOJ. But the group of employees, and there are like 38,000 employees in FBI. I think it's actually lower now, given how many have left. But that's an enormous agency in and of itself. And we wanted them to come to us too, because they're really going through the most. I mean, they're working under a director who is unhinged. They are dealing with things like polygraphs and like harassment and like horrible working conditions. And, they are in a situation where they can retire a lot earlier than DOJ employees. And most of them like build their careers around that goal. Like they want to be there for 20 years because they want to serve for a long time, but also they want to make it to retirement age. DOJ employees don't kind of have the same mentality. So they are struggling. Like if they leave, that could upend their lives, their future plans. And they needed support, but they weren't coming to us because there really is a pretty sharp divide between DOJ and the FBI. And I knew that for them to come to us, they would need to know that there were FBI people within our organization, that people from their family were with us and they could trust us. So we launched an FBI support network, and it's headed by somebody named Mike Feinberg, who is known by just about everybody in the FBI. He's now known by a lot of people because he's on TV all the time. And we filled our advisory committee with people who people trusted and people from all like roles and levels at the department. And Jill's part of it. And, people who a lot of people at the FBI know, and then people who everybody everywhere knows, like Brian Driscoll. Like, we wanted to create like an intentional group of people that would foster trust. And after we launched that, people really started coming to us, both employees, both alumni, but people who needed the help. And like, it worked. So it's something we're just really proud of, and something that couldn't have been needed more.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Philip and I were talking last night because the special agents they're the ones that have that. They can work 20 years and at 50, they can retire. The rest of us who are intel analysts and professional staff did not have that. But there are people struggling that are on the inside that, they're so close. They're right on the cusp of retirement. But Philip was saying,
it turns into this situation. I saw the same thing in the Marine Corps as an enlisted Marine. I'm sure officers go through it too, but you get to this point not too long after you start your career, right? You get 5 years in, 8 years in, and it's like, I'm like a quarter of the way to retirement. At 10 years, I'm half the way to retirement. And that retirement check is like a pretty good sort of insurance against life, And so at 50 years old, you've still got a whole nother career ahead of you if you want it. So there's this really strong incentive for people who maybe only have 10, 12 years. Like, oh, I can't leave now. I've put in too much time. It's that sort of sunk cost fallacy, but there's also something to it in this case. And so, yeah, like there's this really strong pressure to find a way to stay no matter what the cost. And like, it's a terrible situation to be in. I feel for all of the people who are in it right now because like, I know how hard it is for them, but it is sort of unique, I think, amongst federal employees to have that. Whereas like with Jill and I got to make it to 57 or 62 or something. Yeah, I've got 18 years of government service, but I don't have 2 more, I'm in my 40s. It's a long ways out. I'm just going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the people who really are most vulnerable are, like a 49-year-old FBI agent.
Yeah, 49 with 19 and a half years. Yeah. But no, I mean, it's those guys. And I know quite a few of them that are like, I just gotta make it. I just got to make it for the next year, or I've just got to make it for the next 2 years.
Yeah. And it's really like our government made them a promise. And that promise was never in doubt until now. The promise was, if you dedicate a substantial part of the only life you're going to live to us, this is the reward you get at the end. And this administration is breaking that promise, and it has like dramatic consequences for people and their families. I mean, and people just don't talk about that enough.
Yeah, it has huge consequences.
I mean, it's just a huge betrayal. Like, if you serve the public, if you take a salary that is usually substantially lower than what you could get in the private sector, this is like a perk you get on the back end. And to snatch away that perk for political reasons, for retributive reasons, that is just incredible cruelty.
It is.
And it's un-American, Like,
yes. Yes.
America used to value its public servants. It used to follow through on the promises it made to them. And it's not doing that now.
No, it's not. Well, that was depressing.
It's my forte.
I'm like, thanks, Stacey. Now I'm depressed.
You want me to tell a joke?
If you've got a good one, yeah.
It's really dirty, though. I don't know if it's appropriate.
Oh.
Okay, I won't.
Okay. Well,
how about this? Anybody who's listening to this, if you make $1,000 donation to Justice Connection, I will tell you my really filthy joke.
I love that.
That is a promise. And that is a promise, unlike this administration, I will not revoke.
Oh, you heard it, folks.
There you go.
I don't have $1,000, so I won't be hearing the joke. But
our donate button is at thejusticeconnection.org.
.org, not .com.
Right.
Yes. And there's an extraneous the Justice Connection, even though we are just Justice Connection.
I love it. So, Stacey, what's next for Justice Connection and you? Like, what's next during the next few years?
I don't know. You tell me. I'm not a fortune teller.
I Oh, I know. Like, we have no clue. We're
Yeah.
we're we're making it day by day here.
So we have some ideas for expansion that we will execute if we're able to raise enough money to do it. We have some exciting plans in mind. But what I can tell you is that we're going to continue doing what we're doing. And even if we only continue what we're doing, we will still be working, 90 hours a week, because what we do every day on a very skeleton staff is an enormous amount. I mean, between providing support, running our support networks, talking to employees all the time, transmitting information to reporters, talking to reporters, doing news hits, maintaining our tracker, maintaining our Substack, which I also encourage you to subscribe to or follow. I mean, we just do an enormous amount. So even if we don't expand, continuing what we're doing right now would keep us extremely busy for the next few years.
Well, Stacey, on our last question, what would it take for you to go back, or would you go back?
That's a really good question, and like one that I do get asked, and I don't really know. I do, there's something about working on the outside to support the institution that I think is really important. I mean, it's kind of something, when I ran an organization inside, it was not part of the Justice Department. It was like extracurricular for me. It was trying to make DOJ a better place for its workforce. And I loved it. It was the best, proudest thing I did during my DOJ tenure. And what I'm doing now is, I think, the best, proudest thing I've done in my career. So if there's an opportunity for me to continue doing it, I think I would take it, but I don't want to close the door on the possibility of going back. I mean, if DOJ is able to recover, and that's a really open question, and it's going to take so much work, so much more work and creativity than it took to tear it down. I certainly wouldn't close the door on going back, but it's hard to say, like, this is exactly what would have to be in place for me to do that.
Right. Well, Stacey, thank you so much for sharing your story today. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
That joke is really filthy and hilarious. So I really encourage anyone who wants to hear it to donate to Justice Connection at thejusticeconnection.org. No, if you're a DOJ alum, if you're an FBI alum, please join our alumni network. We send out regular, but not annoyingly regular, updates about our work. We offer volunteer opportunities to everybody in our network. We invite alumni to contribute pieces to our Substack. Philip has contributed too, and they've been some of our most popular pieces. And, I'd also just encourage people, when you're reading about DOJ, when you're thinking about DOJ and the FBI, just think about the workforce. When you read about attacks, when you read about the assault on the rule of law, think about how it's affecting the workforce, and remember that a lot of what you're seeing, the vast majority of what you're seeing, is the result of actions of political appointees. It's not the career workforce. They are doing important work behind the scenes, trying to hold the line, and they need the support from everybody on the outside. They're in everybody's states and communities. And, I just encourage everybody to reach out and offer support, and also contact your members of Congress and let them know that you care about what's happening at DOJ, and they need to really exercise their oversight responsibilities and act on a check to the lawlessness, especially after what happened last week when the Senate confirmed Todd Blanche as Attorney General. They're failing to make sure that DOJ stays in line and let your lawmakers know that you're watching and you care.
I love hearing you say all of that. I know Jill and I hear the question a lot, like, what can I do? How can I get involved? And Justice Connection is a great organization to get involved with if you're looking for those opportunities and are coming from DOJ, FBI, etc. So thank you for saying all the things that we've been saying and giving people an outlet.
Well, thank you for feeding me these talking points. And I'm sorry if I plagiarized any of your messaging.
Not at all. Not at
That's
all.
great.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, and thanks for forking off with us.
Thank you.
All right. That was really great. And I just love that Stacey is keeping his sense of humor with everything. So if you want to hear her joke, definitely go to thejusticeconnection.org and donate. You know, Philip, we've talked about trying to give back to the community and volunteer. And this is one of those organizations that you can definitely get involved in.
Yeah, if you're coming from DOJ, if you're coming from the FBI, ATF, DEA, it doesn't matter. You know, you're part of the family. Reach out with them and get involved, get the support that you need, and give some support to others as well.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, and thanks for forking off with us.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Forking Off.
If you're a former Fed with a story to tell, or you're wrestling with your own ethical crossroads, reach out to us at info@forkingoff.com.
Today's episode was created, produced, and edited by Jill and Philip Fields. You can find more information about this episode at forkingoff.com. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Mastodon, LinkedIn, or wherever you get your podcasts.